almost 40 years telling the truth. It was in March of 2020 that this kind of great awakening, Daniel Giamario, the shamanic astrologer of the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School, always called the Pluto return of the United States the turning of the ages. And I knew that this was going to be a big deal. I had no idea how big a deal. I mean, we are taking the planet, not just the country, but the planet down to the studs. As above, so below. Hermes Trismegistus. What that means is what's happening out there is happening in here. So I want you all to take advantage of this time. I like to say that the planet is in perimenopause right now. And if you have read any of that, my Wisdom of Menopause book, the basic thing about that book is that perimenopause is a turning point where you move from a cyclic kind of wisdom where the FSH-LH, this follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone that are produced by the pineal, go like this, down, up, down. And so right at ovulation, FSH and LH are at their absolute peak. Testosterone is at its peak. And here's the important part. Your ability to receive, to be cross-pollinated from every different direction. Yeah, biologically, this is the time of ovulation. The cervical fluid has the most beautiful ferning pattern. Your saliva has this beautiful ferning pattern. And the cervical os, the opening, is wide open. And it's a super highway for cross-pollination from sperm. And most everyone on here is a woman. I saw a man in the background, but I want to give you some egg wisdom because this is what we really need right now, this very moment. So it takes, well, let me finish that one. So after perimenopause, where the FSH-LH is all over the place, you then stabilize at a new point. The average age of the final menstrual period is 52, by the way. But you stabilize at a new point where it's high. It's at the ovulation level for the rest of your life. And I've always known that, so what my profession would tell you, you're menopausal because your body has sort of got the high levels of those neurotransmitters in order to try to force the ovaries into putting forth more eggs. No. It is how the body wires in wisdom. So that same brain state that you had only for 3 days every month for ovulation is now present all the time, which means that it is the women past menopause who have wired in wisdom in a huge way. And I want you to take it as a gift. The powers that be work on inversion. So where you should put your attention, they get you to go the opposite. What you should appreciate as holy, they get you to do the opposite. What they tell you to be afraid of is where all the power is. And so therefore, I want you to understand this gift of growing older. As Dr. Mario Martinez says, growing older, growing older is inevitable. Aging is optional. Aging happens from, I think in the whole sign astrology, we would call it Saturnian Chronos. And it gets into your body with the things you do that I would tell you now stop doing. One of them is stop having milestone birthdays after the age of 33. You can have one at 33 and then be done with it. Because those become checkpoints, millstones, just like in a woman when she turns 35 and hasn't yet had a baby. She is brainwashed into thinking that, okay, 34, you can have a baby, no problem. But the minute your 35th birthday happens, boom, your fertility plummets. It's not true. It's just not true. The number two, at least, a couple years ago, the number two group of women getting pregnant who didn't want to be pregnant were women over 40, because they thought they couldn't get pregnant. They had been brainwashed. A lot of the medical system now is nothing more than brainwashing. And I want to give you some phenomenally disturbing news. And that is that the hospitals currently have become the gas chambers of Nazi Germany. They are killing people with the remdesivir protocols. It's beyond anything you could imagine. Our hospitals here in Maine make about $250,000 for everyone that does the whole protocol. Other hospitals get up to $500,000. The more people you kill with the remdesivir protocol, the more money they make. This is extraordinarily well documented, and we have a class action suit out of Fresno, California, with 14 people who have lost family members. And we're talking people as young as 30 who go in. Okay, so let me just tell you too, because I have a captive audience. Don't ever get a COVID test. The test is garbage. It's always been garbage. It's got a 95% false positive rate. It has terrified whole nations. Oh, I tested positive. Then you have a cold, right? And so you have a cold, you tested positive, you're instantly panicked and terrified. You go into the hospital, they do a test, and then you go down this whole protocol where they get you in there to give you remdesivir, which causes it causes the kidneys to shut down. As 20 times higher rate of kidney failure with remdesivir than any other drug. So you're here for an astrology course. So the way Joni would probably talk about this is she would give you some of those stars that have some aspects that are not so good, but trust me, where we're going as a planet is really, really positive. It's really positive. But the way I describe what's gone on in the last 3 years, it's like actually what happens at perimenopause. Everything that isn't working in your life comes up and hits you between the eyes. And what do you call it? Oh, it's my hormones. It's not your hormones. It is your hormones in terms of, let's say that you're in love with the back walking away, the breast cancer archetype. Like, you constantly try to get love from this person, unable to give you love, which draws too much energy from the breast, which are the organs of nurturance, self-nurturance. And you feel bad about that, which increases cortisol. So then you crave sugar. And in the face of excess estrogen from lack of ovulation, your body goes down a pathway of changing your excess estrogen into a stress hormone known as a catechol estrogen. And all of that hits with headaches, with hair falling out, with all of that. Now let's just add COVID to that, where it's 24/7 fear porn on the mainstream news. So there's a couple things I'm going to tell you. You don't have to believe me. I mean, at this point, I'm branded as an international terrorist. So, you got to hand it to Joni. She's got ovaries big enough to even have me on the channel. I mean, I did well there, on Oprah 10 times and all that. But then, the truth telling just got a little severe for people. But anyway, so no more PCR tests. It's worthless. No more masks and no more shots. By the way, they're putting graphene oxide into the current flu shot. And that's probably what they put into the flu shot in 2019, then turned on the 5G in Wuhan, and all the people dropped dead. So that's what was really going on there. So you don't want any more shots, people. No shingles, no pneumovax, no flu. certainly no COVID, no boosters, like stop. So you need to know that in the same way that at perimenopause, right? There are such funny cultural stories about perimenopause. One day, my mother got so mad at my father, she just threw the roast out the window. I always wondered, what is that? I mean, why do we suddenly put up perimenopausal women as, well, mom's going through menopause? No, mom's going through a rebirth of her soul. And so the dictates of the soul need to come first. For me, it was like I always wanted to learn couple dancing. I mean, just always wanted to learn. I could never get anyone to go with me, and I was divorced by that time. And, I finally fulfilled that soul contract, Venus in Scorpio, by learning Argentine tango and going to Buenos Aires. Do I need to do that anymore? Absolutely not. And won't, because my whole tango community lost their minds. Like you don't go in for close embrace tango with people who wear their vaccination status like some kind of virtue signaling and wear a frickin' mask. I don't think that's what two hearts dancing as one is all about, but that's just me. So at perimenopause, what's happening is the part of you that got shut down in this culture at about the age of 9, 10, 11, that got shut down. When the second chakra opened up with you getting your period, the fifth chakra with the tonsils, whether they're like ovaries, shut down for most women in this culture, most young women. And that's way before the transhumanist movement, which seeks to shut down every single bit of biology that is teaching you a lesson about your soul. The beauty of the female biology is that it recreates the way God comes into physical form. So Meister Eckhart, a Middle Ages mystic, said, "For all eternity, God lies in the birthing bed, giving birth. The essence of God is birthing." So here we are, we're birthing new relationships, a new planet, new social systems, new everything. All the old is crumbling and going away. You can't trust the hospital system. They fired Dr. Paul Merrick, the #1 intensive care doctor in the entire world. The most published intensive care doctor in the entire world got fired. And Pierre Corey, one of his colleagues, also got fired. And he, at a conference, he said to me, he looked at me and he said, "Please don't make fun of me. I didn't know." And I said, "I don't make fun of you. I want you to know I honor everything you've ever done. You're the essence of a good doctor. And people like you have made fun of me my whole life. So this is a very healing moment for me, that you are waking up to what I have seen for decades, for years. And all of you, you wouldn't be here with Joni if you didn't see it too. Why are you even drawn to astrology? And by the way, we know that probably all the seminal texts on astrology are hidden in the basement of the Vatican. We know that. The church has come out against astrology because then they can't control you. If you have the means to interact directly with the energies of your birth and the energies of the solar return and the energies of what's going on right now, if you have that ability yourself, and you don't need a priest, and you don't need to go to confession, and you don't need to give a certain amount of money, they don't want that. These are the control systems that are now falling down. And in your own lives, I want you to look at the control systems. Do any of you have family members who have told you that you can't see them or whatever unless you do a certain thing. I mean, have you found that you have family members where there's been splits? Does that make sense to anybody? A couple of you? Yeah, yeah. And you know, that used to happen if you were even interested in astrology or tarot or anything, or Louise Hay affirmations. You know, they tell you you're nuts, you're crazy. But then you read something like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, who says, thoughts have the peculiar quality of becoming their physical equivalents. Yes, they do. And thoughts have the peculiar quality of changing your biology. So what if you come from a lineage, a family lineage of, let's say, because I heard this a lot in my practice. Well, you know, every woman in my family has had a hysterectomy by the age of 50. So I guess I should just get one. You know, it's in my genes, or this runs in my family. So what I want you to do, is anyone here the black sheep of her family? Okay. All right. You black sheep people, you don't get the diseases that your family has. You got the same genes. You don't get the same diseases. Why? Because your epigenetics, that is the environment that determines how the gene gets expressed, is different because you think differently. The biochemistry of your body is completely changed by the way you think, which was the whole career of my friend, the late Louise Hay, who wrote You Can Heal Your Life. And Louise was brutalized by her father, sexually abused, gave up a baby for adoption at 17, had cervical cancer by the age of 21, and healed it with diet and affirmations. And then did a self-published book called You Can Heal Your Life. And she was on Phil Donahue and Oprah the same week with a self-published book. It soars into #1, and she and her mother are at the kitchen table trying to get the book out to the people who bought it. Reed Tracy walks in, her accountant, and he says, if you keep working like this, you're going to be bankrupt. And Reed Tracy's now the president of Hay House. And so Louise Hay, from her personal experience of You Can Heal Your Life through your thoughts and your behaviors, then becomes the founder of an international publishing company that has had a lot of New York Times bestsellers. That's what one person can do with her thoughts. And right now is an incredibly potent time for that, because all the old structures that you thought you could rely on are all going away. Now you get to use the power of your own chart, really, and your own, because remember, the way I see it is your astrologic chart is the blueprint for the script that your soul chose to play out in this lifetime. This is the script, but you can play it however you want it. But there's certain things that are, there's certain obstacles. And, you know, and Joni was doing my chart and I have Rahu, whatever. And she said, you will be well known, but you always have to pay. Whatever that was, I don't remember. But, you know, anything that you get, you have earned, and it has not come easily, even though I've had journalists in the past say to me, you know, has Dr. Northrup ever suffered? You know, it's like, well, okay, the reason I don't look like I have suffered is that I really know how impotent the victim position is. And right now, our culture is run by the transactional analysis triangle of death. I call it the Bermuda Triangle. And that's, okay, there are 3 positions on the Bermuda Triangle. There's the rescuer, there's the victim, and there's the persecutor. Rescuer, victim, persecutor. What did the dark cult deep state do? they came out with the big bugga, the COVID virus, which we knew at the beginning had a 99.9% survival rate. So a whole bunch of us started to publish that stuff everywhere. And then we got shut down by the persecutor. Every one of you has that same triangle going on in your life. I know it. And 1 in 5, I got to show you this because I wrote this and not knowing that it was predictive programming. You know, the matrix is predictive programming, but I wrote this in 2018, Dodging Energy Vampires. And it was about personality disorders, about the narcissist and the borderline that every family has. It's 1 in 5 people that drives everyone crazy because they live on narcissistic supply, which is your money, your attention, your sex drive, your whatever. Talk about me good, talk about me bad, just talk about me. Every family has one. And I swear it's probably in your chart because nobody is as strengthening as these people for you, if you will rise up above the victim, persecutor, rescuer triangle and get up above it and stop giving them power. I want to give you an example. So I have a friend whose stepson just went off to college, and she goes, and I'm dreading him coming home because I'm going to have to cook his favorite Swedish meatballs and this and that. And you know, and I'm going to have to entertain his borderline girlfriend. And I said to her, why? Why do you think you have to do that? And she realized, oh, I see. I'm the second wife in the marriage. The first, their mother basically has a banana in the house, and that's about it. So I'm trying to increase my street cred with my stepchildren by cooking beautiful meals and showing them what a good mother is. But then, because one has the narcissistic self-centered tendencies, the prince comes in and sort of waves his wand. Well, this is what I want for dinner. And she realized that she'd overshot. She wasn't taking care of herself. Your primary job is to take care of yourself. And the first thing that happens when a woman who's been a good woman in this culture begins to take care of herself, if she's an empath, is she'll feel guilty. She'll feel guilty. Well, I should be doing that, and I should be. So I want you to practice staying present with what is, like with what is happening in your life right now. Stay present with it. And then as you do your astrologic work, it's always so interesting to me, especially with Vedic astrology and having had a reading with Joni, and to go back and, you know, go back really as far back as you want to go and listen to what that was, what those aspects were. And in retrospect, go, oh, okay, I get it. That's what was happening for me to be strengthened. I'm not the victim of that. Of course you were the victim of some things. Of course you were, if you were sexually abused or what, or you were scammed out of money, or you find out that your husband was having an affair. Yes, you're the victim, but the strength lies in saying, all right, on a soul level, I chose this. It's going to be working for me, not against me. Everything is going to be working out for me. And at this particular time in my life, I can look back and see all the things that I was weeping about because they didn't happen were things in which I was spared, And I'll bet you can relate to that. So if you're in the middle of a dilemma, and believe me, it's a dilemma to be on Earth right now. We're coming into a time, and I'm going to ask Joni for the astrology of this very moment, particularly October 29th, because 107 says, if we're going to have the 10 days of darkness where the internet goes down And we finally hear what's really been going on, because we've been in World War III, everybody. The Nazis in Germany after World War II, they never declared the end of that war. It was never ratified. They just brought a bunch of them over here with Project Paperclip and put them in positions of power. And, you know, remember those fires at the Vatican? So there's been an army taking care of deep underground military bases and tunnels. That's been going on for a long time. And when Eisenhower said, beware the military industrial complex, that's what we're talking about. So it's a big, big time to be on Earth. You chose to be here. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, your grandchildren are going to say, what were you doing during the turning of the ages? What were you doing? Were you hiding in a closet, wearing 2 masks, afraid to go out and get the mail? Or were you being present and having your presence change everything? Because the electromagnetic field of somebody who is heart-centered, in their heart, not in their head, but in their heart, the electromagnetic field is 5,000 times greater than someone who's afraid in their left hemisphere, which means that you, walking about your daily life, become an air purifier. You become someone who, by your very presence in the grocery store, sends out a scalar energy wave that heals people around you. You don't even need to do anything. I have a friend who was on the New York City subway, and he took off his mask, and he just decided to do this as an experiment. So there's another guy across the car who's got a mask on, and he's looking, you know, rigid. And so my friend George takes off the mask, smiles at him, and then with intent, just sends love to the guy, just doesn't say a word. Pretty soon the guy starts moving his shoulders, kind of smiles, takes off his mask. That's what we can do every day and that, here's the good news. If you do that for others, it works for you as well. There's one more thing that I want to teach you, and then I'm going to just take some questions here. I work with Robert Fritchie, who runs the worldserviceinstitute.org. And I got in touch with Bob way back, because I was working with the Bruno Gruning Circle of Friends. And Bruno Gruning was an incredible healer who came to prominence in Germany in 1949, right after the war. And he would begin to speak to large groups of people. He had a big gland on his neck, which he said was a healing organ. And when he'd speak, healing would go out around the crowd. Now, Jesus is still doing this, so you can use Jesus, but Bruno worked for Jesus. And people would get well. And he was just being around him speaking. And he taught a thing called Einstellen, which is receiving the healing stream. And the healing stream was called the Heilstrom. And you would just sit with your hands this way on your lap to receive the healing stream while they played this beautiful music composed strictly for this purpose. And I would teach this from the stage, and people would get over hip problems and all kinds of things, not because it had anything to do with me, but because we had opened up a portal of what we humans are capable of. Well, the Germans running the organization didn't like that. You know, Germans are really good at like building BMW cars, and they can be a little rigid. These guys were a little rigid. And I thought, why are you trying to make this healing stream that's available from God? Why do I need to do it? Why do I need to teach it so that the meeting has a secretary, a treasurer, or whatever, and I have to report to you in Germany? This doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, I meet Bob, and Bob had worked with, he's an engineer, and he'd worked with Marcel Vogel, who had 100 patents in crystal technology from IBM. And the two of them began to work on healing, and they developed the Vogel crystals. Have any of you heard of the Vogel crystals used for healing? He said they then realized they didn't need the crystal. We are the crystal. Our fascia is crystalline. Our bones are crystalline. Our teeth are crystalline. And I've just learned that our acupuncture meridians are
Sid Roth here.
Sorry, Sid Roth there. I don't know why you started to talk to me. Anyway, and our acupuncture meridians are fiber optic cables throughout the body. So we are here to receive light. And some of you might have heard about sun gazing. I'm friends with Gene Decode, who's been reporting on the deep underground military bases and the children captured under there for about 30 years. And Gene said his eyes used to be terrible, but just with some sun gazing, we're talking dawn or dusk, not noon. His eyes are, he's got better than 20/20 vision now, because we're created to receive light. And just like a plant. And I don't know about you, but we always want the window at the restaurant. I mean, I always want the place where there's the light. Who goes into bars where there's no light? Demons and depressed people. And too much light, like vampires. Anyway, so Bob now teaches divine love healing, and divine love is the creator's love. And it's available to anyone, but you have to have like a one-on-one relationship with the creator. And what's fun about that is you get to decide what the creator is and who it is and all that. I'm currently deciding that I want to have a relationship with Jesus on my own, not what someone tells me at church. It's just me and Jesus. We're going to have a little thing this year, every day. Anyway, so you get to decide, but here's what happens. A petition is like your spirit making a phone call. And then God answers through energy coming into your body. So Bob and I just did a thing that I'm going to be getting out on my Telegram channel and probably Twitter and everywhere, just to teach this to people. He has seen people with blood clots in the foot, where the foot was black, just have them dissolve before his eyes. Because if we are indeed made in the image of the creator, and I don't like the word fearfully and wonderfully made. It's not fearful. The original word is awe. We're awesomely and wonderfully made in the image of God. And Jesus said, these things and more ye shall do also. So if that's true, we should be able to get rid of any spike protein, any graphene oxide, anything that we did and we didn't know. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of innocent people. And I do not believe for a moment that every one of them is going to have lifelong impairments or whatever. It's pretty horrific already with the sudden adult deaths and so on. It's pretty bad. SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, went to almost zero in 2020 because no one was taking their kids in for routine shots. And sudden adult death is the same thing. It's just from the shots. So anyway, this is the petition, and it goes like this. With my spirit, I focus divine love throughout my system. I ask the creator to continuously charge and renew my body, mind, and spirit. You say anything like that. And I ask for this with divine love, according to the creator's will. So that's thy will, not my will, according to the creator's will. Then you take a breath in, hold it, pulse it out through your nose, and then the petition is then out alive. And you can do that, like repeatedly throughout the day. And if you go to worldserviceinstitute.org, he's got movies, he's got all kinds of stuff there. But that is something that I think everyone should know about. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You can just say, I accept divine love, pulse your breath. You got it. Because every time we get scared or angry, we're disconnected from the creative source. And you've probably noticed that. It's like when you are terrified or you hear a podcast or you watch the news, that's designed to keep you terrified, because the dark forces feed off anger and fear and depression and despair. So they've managed to keep the world in anger, fear, depression, and despair through the media. But you were all smart enough to spend your time doing something else. learning Vedic astrology, some of the ancient secrets that help you live a better life, kind of prepare for what's coming, but not be afraid of it. Because, you know, when they say faith can move mountains, I like to say faith can move mountains, or God can move mountains, bring a shovel, because we do have to do some things, you know, like it would be a good idea, I think, every one of us to have about a month's worth of food put by, just in case they have to do a changeover of the grid system and the internet and all of that, so that the secret technologies that would free humanity, that will free humanity, can come back online. Now, I've been involved in holistic medicine a very long time. So I have long known about the Rockefeller Foundation's takeover of medicine starting in about 1910 with the Flexner Report. And John D. Rockefeller, founder of Standard Oil, paid for the Flexner Report for doctors to go out and close down all the medical herbalism schools, acupuncture, homeopathy, osteopathy, chiropractic. And they invented the word quack, and they started the American Medical Association. And then when people started to get cancer from all the petrochemical drugs, same people founded the American Cancer Society. And what you find when you work within a place like the American Cancer Society, they're not interested in anything that can cure cancer. They censor that. And this has been going on for decades, but it's now reached the final moment. It's like, as a surgeon, you know, when an abscess points or a pimple comes to a head, right? Then it's ready to be incised and drained. And in this particular case, you incise it, pus comes out, you reach your fingers in to break it up. And before you know it, it's deep, you're up to your elbow. You had no idea how deep this was. Very Plutonian. It goes deep, deep, deep. But what does Pluto rule? The underworld, where the oil and the gas and the water and the gems and the silver and the gold all come from. So don't be afraid of it. Just be present with it and understand that that electromagnetic field around you, which you get stable by thinking of something you love, a puppy, a kitten, a sleeping baby. Bring that into your consciousness. It instantly creates parasympathetic and sympathetic beat-to-beat variability in the heart that balances your hormones. Honest to heaven, it increases DHEA, and just bringing that loving presence. And this is not the same as denial-soaked positive thinking. That does not work. You have to feel it to heal it. But in general, when you can find things to be grateful for, just little things. The sun comes up every morning, no matter what Klaus Schwab is doing, or Yuval Noah Harari, the son of Satan. The sun still comes up. The beach is there. Your dog or your cat curl up beside you. Those things balance your hormones, increase beat-to-beat variability in the heart. And then you're a source of healing. So I want you to all see yourself as, I am a source of healing. I'm not a victim of the current system. I'm an asset. So with that, Joni, tell us what the astrology is for October 29th, and then I'll take questions.
Okay. Well, we look at charts in this class. I don't know if you looked at any of our previous classes, but we take symbols and charts. And I have been talking about October since the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
October is the time of the purging. As you say, the pimple, the boil, it is ready to blow. And just looking at the chart, well, there's first of all, the solar eclipse that happens on the 25th. It is,
Oh, yeah, an
it,
eclipse.
yeah. Well, you know what eclipses are? They're the darkening of the light. So what is the light? The light is what we can see, but in the darkness, it's kind of very Plutonian, if I could add to that. It's like we go within and we see what we couldn't see before. And through seeing that, there's where the real healing comes in, because then we know what we're dealing with. We
Yeah.
can't heal something if we don't know what it is, but we're going to see what it is. I always say now, eclipses, of course, happen twice a year, 6 months apart. The solar eclipse is the focal point. Then, 2 weeks before, after a solar, we have the lunar. But it's the solar eclipse that is the focal point. And this eclipse happens October 25th. And what I find very interesting about this eclipse, and I always say eclipses bring to the surface something we didn't know about through the darkness, because what is an eclipse? It's the shadow is cast on the sun. Okay, the sun is our light. When that is darkened, what comes out of the darkness? Something we didn't know. So that's first of all what's going to be happening this month of October. We think we know it all. No, there's some new stuff that's going to come out that we didn't know. And with that information, then we know what we're dealing with, what we have to heal. And Venus is the planet that is completely eclipsed by this eclipse, because this eclipse happens at 7 degrees of Libra sidereally in the Vedic chart. Well, Venus sits there at 8 degrees Libra. So Venus is that planet that deals with, well, number one, we think of Venus as love, relationships. So all of us are looking at our relationships differently, because there's going to be something for all of us that's going to open up that we didn't know about our partners, about love, about relationships, how we all relate. This is number one. Number two, of course, we know the economy is what it is. It's going down,
Yeah.
whole domino effect of COVID for the last 2 years. This is no big surprise, but there might be something that's revealed more, probably like what you're saying, Christiane, that there's something that is in the big government that it was all orchestrated. It wasn't like, oh, this disease just haphazardly hit the planet. No, it was all orchestrated. And that's what's really so obviously coming out with, this was the big plan to take everything down, to control the masses through the fear, through the darkness. And everyone's falling for it, except for a few people here, especially here. We can see clearly the facts are speaking for themselves. We know what's happening. This is the big showdown. Now, another thing that's happening on the sidelines is Mars is about to go retrograde. Now, this is another thing that's not rare, because Mars goes retrograde every 2 years. But the degree placements of where it's going retrograde, I think you're right. There could be a lot of shutdowns of the internet, mass communications, because where Mars is going to station October 30th to go retrograde is 0 to 1 degree of Gemini. And Gemini, yeah, communications, how everything comes together with how we connect, how we get our information, the media, the internet, everything to do with communications is messed up big time. And Mars deals with what? Anger and war. So I think there's going to be a lot of maybe Russia shuts down, the internet. And Mars, by the way, does deal with what? Anger, war, violence, weapons. People are going to be, between this solar eclipse on October 25th till November 8th, the lunar eclipse, people are going to be angry. People are going to be, coming out everywhere with their anger, their frustration, their rage about how they've been in the dark and how we've been, you know, lied to and continually lied to. We're still the crazy ones, right? And for coming out with the truth, they're going to make you look more crazy. And that's their tactic with everyone that's ever said anything that they didn't like. They make you look like an idiot and you're dumb and you know, you have no knowledge or information, which nothing could be further from the truth. But that's what this Mars and this solar and lunar eclipse, they all kind of punch together between the last week of October to the first week of November. This is where the big purging comes. And this is going to be possibly, if there are any major shutdowns of any kind, that would be the time. I'm actually going on a trip to Europe, but I plan to be back way before that solar eclipse.
Exactly. Exactly.
Don't worry. But I think, you know, there's a little bit of time, breathing room space, I think, before this, because when Mercury goes direct, Mercury's retrograde right now. When it goes direct around October 3rd is actually when my trip leaves. And we have Jupiter aspecting Mercury for a good 2 weeks. And that's a great time to travel. But after that 2 weeks, let's all buckle down and get to work. And we've got to, as Christiane's saying, work on our heart energy. Because as we all know, that is where the electromagnetic energy is the strongest, in the heart, not in our brains, in our heart. And when we come from this place of the only thing that really heals is love, and that is the opening of the heart energy. And if we can come from that place and put that out on the planet, this is the best thing and the only thing really we have the power to do, because there's so much control going on in the world right now, and it's all coming to a head and going to surface. Yes, you're right about this October date time. And that's why, you know, I wanted to pull together this class, and you of all people are so perfect right before this time to speak with us, because you know this better than anyone else, and you've been persecuted, I know, more than anyone else over all of this, and all you're trying to do is speak your truth. God forbid. What is wrong with that? And you do it with the intention. We always, in this class, we talk about intention, with the intention to help people. You're a doctor, you're a healer. That's what you went into this field to do. And you're being persecuted. I mean, what does that tell you about the world and what kind of position we're in right now? I believe you wholeheartedly, Christiane, because I know your intention is only to heal and help others. You've never had any other ill feeling of any kind, and you are a powerhouse. Oprah put you out there, what, 10 times on her show? Yes, back when Oprah was really
Well, she was a big deal.
yeah, she was helping, you know, she opened up
She
a lot of
was.
doors for things that nobody would talk about, rape and incest on, you know, public television way back in the day when that was unheard of. She really did open the door. But I think you're opening the door for us right now. You're continually keeping that door open. And the fact that you look at astrology the way you do, and you're a medical doctor, is so powerful. It makes me respect you all the more, because most medical doctors, if they can't see it, they don't believe in it. But you know, as Wayne Dyer used to always say, you'll believe it. It's not when you don't have to see it to believe it, but you will believe it. You don't have to see it. And that's what the true belief in the healing comes from, the knowing without having to see it. And doctors and, you know, all scientists, they have to have that physical proof, that physical thing. But how on earth do you prove the physical emotion of love that heals everything? It's invisible. But that's the most powerful force in the world, and that's what you speak of. So I commend you on that. I think you are an incredible healer. I respect you so much. And once again, I am just so honored that you're here today. So anything more you want to add to this, or, before we let all of our wonderful people here ask us questions?
First of all, Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, was a medical astrologer. So let's be clear on that. And, there's a whole field, as you know, of medical astrology. So Sagittarius rules the thighs, Cancer rules the breasts, Pisces rules the feet, Aries rules the head. And if you know anyone whose first house is ruled by Aries, they're always doing stuff with their head. Honest, they wear hats, they've got a million kind of sunglasses. It's really
That's really true. Or they have headaches or head injuries on top of all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the ram, they're butting their head against the wall. But anyway, if you can't see that, but that's been my whole career. It's seeing things that others were not seeing that seem so obvious to me. And that therefore, when this whole COVID thing started, it's like, what else you got? I mean, I've been here before. It's just that the culture shifted. People said, well, she's lost her mind. It's like, no. You just don't want to go where I'm going because the terrain's a little more difficult. It's very hard for people to be called names and to be smeared in the press and all the rest of it. But then what happens? All your so-called, again, it's that inversion. So your trusted sources, the sources that you thought you could trust, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the FDA, the CDC, NIH. Those are the last places that you can trust now. They're no longer trustworthy. The hospital, you're down there in Texas, Baylor, they fired Peter McCullough, possibly the most published incredible doctor I know. So I would say deal with that in your own time and in your own way. And learn to trust your own heart and God. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So what do we got for questions? And I think I have just a couple more minutes. Let me just check a minute here, Joni. I got to see when my next thing is.
Okay.
All right. Oh, no, we're good. We're good. It's not till 2:30.
Okay. Great.
I'd love to just make a really quick comment if I could.
Mm-hmm.
I went to IIN and it was in 2012, and you had a profound influence on my entire life and how I could work to heal my son who has pandas and how I could forgive my mom. And I wrote a book about it in 2014, where I actually wrote the forgiveness chapter with my mom. And that took decades to heal that. And I really contribute that towards you. And I write about you in my book. So thank you. You changed my life with my son and myself and my mom. Thank you.
That's huge. Thank you so much for that reflection. Thank you. Great.
I would just like to say I appreciate this talk so much because I agree with everything that you've been saying. In fact, when COVID first came out, I was speaking out saying this is not an accident. This is intentional biological warfare. And everybody thought I was crazy. And I've been feeling like I'm the one who's crazy, but you finally gave, a voice to this, that what I have been feeling is actually the truth. I'm not crazy.
Right. That's right.
And, so I appreciate that so much and all your work that you do. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think one of the things when I first came out with Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, which is it's a big sucker. But the best compliment I would ever get was women coming up to me saying, I always knew this stuff, like I knew it in my bones, but no doctor ever said it. So I realized that it was a bridge to self-trust for women that, I went through all the stuff, the rigors of all of it, so that I could hand it back to women and say, you really do know this stuff. You have that inner wisdom. you don't need the authority figure, but because of the way the culture is right now, you sort of need the authority figure to corroborate your own inner wisdom. And so that's been a big part of my path, I think, to just like to reflect to you, oh yeah, you're you're not crazy. The rest of them have lost the plot, but
Yeah,
you're
that's what I
still one of
thought.
them.
I call it la la land.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's hard to believe, isn't it? You know, it's like
Yeah.
every day I hear, God, my sister's husband just got a huge blood clot, and so and so, oh, their son died suddenly in his sleep, and oh, she's got Bell's palsy, just got her booster, and it's like,
Yeah.
when is someone going to put this together? Yeah. So Joni, you know, when you talked about Mars, the anger, I mean, I don't know what people are going to do when they wake up and they see what they were talked into to do with their bodies. It's more than a human will be able to deal with. They're going to have to invite God in to help them with, they're going to be naked and betrayed. Just everything they ever believed to be true is false, and they will feel so betrayed. My colleague, Dr. Larry Palevsky, a wonderful pediatrician, he goes, these doctors, they're going to be chased through the streets with pitchforks.
Wow.
And there's part of me, I'll be real honest with you. I got my North Node in Aries. And there's a part of me that's like, yep, okay, you can line up in my backyard and here are the pitchforks. It's not like I would do it, but you know.
Well, you know, you
I-
mentioned betrayal, and Pluto is the planet of betrayal.
Oh,
And absolutely. And, you know, the United States is going for the Pluto return. So I think that's kind of interesting that you brought out betrayal and Pluto. Anyway.
great.
I think you're touching point on so much that people get so much flack for on the things that they've listened to and resonate with. And it draws that line of the conspiracies that, you know, you're thrown on the crazy train. And I know my mother is one of those that in our family this year has been ostracized for the most part. It's like, please, Mom, don't open your mouth at Christmas. I mean, I love you, but we really don't want to know if JFK is still alive. And, you know, I swear I'm going to share this video with her because you guys would be best friends. And she talks about 107 all the time. And I half listen because I have to kind of feel like I'm in the balance between the reality of the real world that's happening in our face, other than I know that it's completely corrupt and there's darkness that's trying to control the world. And when you were talking earlier, two of the things that came up was the Matrix that you mentioned, and then Monsters Inc., which I think all of us have seen it. And in that show, and here we are like entertaining our children, and Pixar did such a wonderful job of showing how these monsters would go in and scare these kids so that they would create fear so that they could live on it, you know, and that was what the energy that they would siphon. And so they had to make sure that they, you know, raise that fear level. And it just feels like it's always been there. The disclosure has always been in our face. But will it truly see the light of day, you know? And it's the polarity has been insane and hard to balance. And being who you are, talking about hormones, you know, I'm 54. I just got a hormone pellet, which I don't know if you agree with, but I was having the worst hot flashes that I've ever had, night sweats. I was completely fine. And then all of a sudden I was like, this is not manageable. Like, I am not doing well. And so I am feeling better. But I don't disagree with the idea that it's possible that I could have gotten to a state of mind where I could have, you know, got my body to listen to the changes that I was going through. But anyway,
I'm all about
I think everyone, for the most part, there may be some people here that are kind of thinking, oh my God, this lady's out of it. But I just feel like you're right in that middle of what people needed to hear. And I thank you, Joni, for being so brave, because this is really pushing that envelope. But I honestly think this is that the eggshell that has to be cracked open And, you're not a demon, you're a good, educated, smart woman who believes a certain way and sees things the way you think that they're going down. And you're not alone, by no means. But everybody on the other side that's in power is wanting to put you in your place, and wanting to put us all in our place, wanting to silence so many people who have tried to spread this, and they would call it gossip or conspiracy. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much time, but I had to get that out because it's like, this is amazing. Like, wow.
Well, thank you, Michelle. I want to say, I was kind of a pioneer in the bioidentical hormones because there's so many reasons why we need support during that time. And I even started my own company importing the herb Pararia mirifica from Thailand. And that company is Amata, AMATA, which means ageless, amatalife.com. And I make, hands down, the best vaginal moisturizer on the market. Premarin cream and estrace and all that costs a fortune, $350 for a tube. My stuff does the same thing, but without a prescription. So, again, I am all for the bioidenticals and the pellet you got. Those can help a lot of women. But for those who would prefer not to have a prescription thing, our product I made because I just found that it was helping so many people. So I think I'm glad you brought that up because it's never either or. There's so many things that are available to help us through these transitions. And the transition wouldn't be anything like how difficult it is if we lived on a planet with clean air, clean water, natural light. We're walking barefoot more often, like all of that. But in the meantime, you use what you need to stay comfortable. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Hi there.
And Madeline put your website down there for everyone to hook into. Did everyone see that where Madeline put?
Yep, right there, amatalife.com. Yep, thanks. Madeline.
Okay, I wanted
Good.
everybody to have that.
Yep.
Hi there. I'm Kelly Sutliff, and I'm a psychic medium. And I just want to say a few things. And when you were talking, and when you were especially talking about, I can't even talk today. Remdesivir that was in the hospitals that they were using, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have to say, during this pandemic, you would think I would have been inundated with people, who died from this disease. And I wasn't, with the type of work that I do. I probably read for about 12 people that actually personally, who people have found me to when I was reading for families who people died of the disease.
Yeah.
And I can tell you when these loved ones have come through, when I've been reading, so many of them were killed by the hospitals, and they shared that with me.
Wow.
And I can go into where Mass General in Boston, same hospital after same hospital, their protocols that they did, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There was one woman that was her husband's advocate, fought like hell. Okay, you're not giving that to my husband. You're not giving that to my husband. If I have to take him as a vegetable, I'm going to take him as a vegetable. Okay, you're going to do what I'm telling you. Mike walked out of the hospital 3 months later. Prior to that, 2 other cases I worked on from Mass General had that same protocol. People didn't advocate, or they couldn't advocate, from across this country that was happening, which showed me early on, okay, we're in big trouble here.
Yeah. And
as I go into what you talk about, when you mention, I do a lot of missing persons work with my work. But when you go into the aspect, when you talk about what was happening with children and sex trafficking and tunnels and those type of things, what's very interesting to me, Spirit always gives you stuff beforehand. You know that. You're an intuitive person, right? We always get it beforehand. We all do. And what happened was I was given dreams in my dreams about what was happening with these children and where they were and what was happening. Then I fast forward, people send me videos, send me things. So Spirit was like preparing me for what was to happen. And like all of us, were preparing us to what was going to happen here in the last 2.5 years. So validating that. What I pick up actually when we talk about, because we're all intuitive people, when we're talking about what's happening in October, I'm picking up a month time. I'm getting that as a month time.
Mhm.
So I'm going October 26th through November 26th. I'm not seeing this as just a quick hit, and a quick hit, but it could be a quick hit. But I'm not seeing it as just like a week's time. The spirit has shown me 2 or 3 different levels. And yes, there is going to be lots of revelation of who in the government, who in process of who was this, who I should say the corrupt players are. The people we don't want on our team anymore. How about
Right.
that?
Right.
So, you know what I mean? I've seen that psychically. I love your work. I followed your work forever. You know, you're able to blend, which I love, both brains. Whenever I can find people like yourself, where you can blend, you know, the people who are really good in math, which I wasn't, or you know what I mean, that kind of brain, to along with, you know what I mean, your medical perspective to your genuine side of your soul, and that really is perfect. So keep doing your bits, because you're doing a good job.
Thank you so much. I love hearing that, you know, that the souls would say, hey, they killed me. I like to think, though, that they're all on the other side just cheering us on. It's like,
Oh, I can guarantee you they're trying to make it right. And so
okay,
they're finding the people who have the voices to make them right.
uh-huh. I love
Remember,
it.
you know what I mean? The people who
Yeah.
will speak on behalf of them.
We're doing a thing that we should all know about. It's called prosecutenow.io. So I'll just put that in the chat, and
Unleash.
.io, and our server is not under the Google thing. And so we're treating the whole thing as this is felony homicide. And we want 7 cases of people murdered with remdesivir. And then we'll take that to the judge. We're working both with common law and statutory law. And if you go to prosecutenow.io, and if you know any healthcare providers, nurses, doctors, whatever, we created a 22-point COVID commonalities that anyone who could see this would be able to sign this affidavit, get it notarized, uploaded, and then talk about it and read it into the computer. And we now have over 4,000 of these, and we'll be able to bring this whole thing to a halt. And in Utah, if you use a drug that is a known fraudulent, and this quaxine is not a vaccine. And so because that's, once they prove that that's a fraud, then that's a felony in Utah. And our plan is to go after Ralph Barrick, the University of North Carolina, for capital murder, because he's the guy who did all this stuff. And David Martin has the patents for the coronavirus from 2004. So when you said this has been going on a long time, this has been going on a long time. And so those of you in the know, think about this soul contract where you've been sitting with this information and everyone else thought you were nuts. But, you know, but what happens as you get spiritually developed and you're here and we're together, we've all found each other. You used to be like the only person, you know, you were the witch in the family. You were the only one, right? Now we know everybody. The number of doctors that I know now, it's like I want to say to the demons, nah, 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 you know, because now we're sort of stronger than we've ever been, you know, because we know each other and we've all come together. So I hope that each of you in your own families, in your own neighborhoods, you've got a couple people that you can talk to. Because we're going to need the community. We're going to need each other. Yeah, I got 3 quart of kiln dried firewood, so so at least I won't freeze.
Well, you know, Christiane, let me say something really quick. You said
Yeah.
year of 2004. That was the last time that Rahu and Ketu were in the signs that they're in right now. So 2004 and right now, this is the revelation of what's to come from 2004. Okay.
Wow.
I'm sorry,
Wow.
Deborah, you wanted to say something.
I love it.
Yes.
Christine, it's a blessing to have you. And I love the phrase, goddesses do not age. And earlier you were saying that you want to have one-on-one relationship with God. And this is where I see you. And it is so, your timing couldn't have been more perfect, because twice a year, there is a 9-day portal, and it's just started yesterday, this
Oh.
9-day period. Yes. So where they say is, it's an open portal, so direct contact with whoever we call God. So
Mhm.
if festival is called Navratri, and since we are astrologers, I thought about it. The timing is everything. And you coming to us and talking about it, it was beautiful, just like a live goddess.
Thank
Everything. And I have to personally thank you, because you know, I've been experiencing, first of all, for years, I did not know that I am an empath. And always, you are the only person I found out that electronics malfunction. It
Yes.
oh my God. And clocks, and because I'm the only one, my cell phone is dying. It's doing weird things. It goes blank, my laptop screen. And in my meditation class, I have a fog, and like we are all in there, but only one screen will have a fog and all that. And I never shared that with anybody, but only through you. So personally, I need to thank you so much.
Oh.
Keep doing and speaking up.
Oh, I will, because it's really fun.
Yes.
It's really fun.
Yeah. And that's the real goddess in you.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Wonderful.
I'd like to say something if I could. Oh my gosh, I might tear up. I mean, I just can't even tell you. I've had women's bodies and women's wisdom since the 90s. I carry it around along with Louise Hay, you can heal your life. I mean, just the energies of those words. And you really did give me the ability to trust myself.
Mm.
And I've been in holistic, all of that for many, many years. And when everything happened in 2020, I knew, like you were saying, that there was, so much going on. I mean, I was one eye open when 9/11 happened, both eyes open when the banks were bailed out in 2008. So and it's been a lonely existence, really, to be honest. And when I have a daughter, she's 18, just went to college. And when the whole vaccine thing happened, her doctor, as well as my doctor, were like, no, you don't need it. But her dad and everybody else in our lives, all her friends, everybody were getting it and suggesting that I couldn't even get her not to do the Gardasil. I prayed, begged, everything. She got the Gardasil, but I have one friend that I can join with in prayer, and we did the true spiritual battle. And thank God, my daughter was going to get that vaccine had her doctor not reinforced yet again that she really didn't need it. And it's just been such, a journey these last couple of years to just, it feels like it has been spiritual warfare. And, luckily I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and luckily I have a few people locally, but I don't have many people locally. And so I'm on your Telegram.
Oh, good.
So great. So grateful for you. I heard that you're going to the thing in October down in Orlando.
I am. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. I don't know yet, but I just, I think the one question that I would ask, if possible, and maybe you have some links or resources to send me to, but I did have COVID about a year ago, and I still don't have my smell back. But part of it is mental, because where I live, it literally does not smell good sometimes. And so there's a part of me that's like, because I've always had such a sensitive, nose. And so part of me is like, God, it's been kind of nice not having as strong a nose as I always had. But I also know that I need to work on my biology and get that back. And then the second question is, I have passed your prayer that you talked about with, that you said earlier. And my question is, what is the significance of the breath out of the nose? Because I've given that prayer to a couple of people, but I haven't told them that part of it. So will you go over that?
Yeah, it's literally when you draw in your breath and then pulse it out, you're sending the energy of that petition out into the world from your system so that it's activated and then can come back to you. And it's done with the breath. And the reason it's done with the breath is that's what Marcel Vogel and Robert Fritchie found with their instrumentation. That's what worked. That's what did it. You remember they set up a lab and they worked for 20 years together on what worked with healing, what didn't, and so on. So that's what worked. It's sort of like the breath of life kind of thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm just have been looking forward to you all month.
Thank you. Now get some, get some hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin, and that should bring back the smell. Or the other thing is Cardio Miracle. That works really, really well. But also let me just talk about the sense of smell. You people, most of you are really intuitive, and you will have an acute sense of smell. You're the people who go, I smell like something's off. When you have that acute sense of smell, it is because your temporal lobes are very different from other people's. You smell that something's off long before other people can tell. And so you can trust that. So maybe, like you said, Julie, you were just given a reprieve because things are smelling, something's off here. You're smelling so bad.
It's true.
Oh,
it's really
man.
true.
Yeah, but you can get that back. I mean, we can get back all of this stuff. We really need to know that there's nothing that is permanent. And by the way, I think that, quite frankly, I think it's the same for your children who've had the shot. I'm just putting a link in here for Cardio Miracle. This stuff works like a charm with almost everything. I take it every single day. We're finding that if you have spike protein problems, it helps the body get rid of graphene oxide. If you have trouble getting your vitamin D up to where it should be, it takes care of that. This stuff is really a miracle. It increases nitric oxide, which is produced from the endothelial lining of every cell in the body. And I first discovered nitric oxide when I was teaching at the Mama Gina School of Womanly Arts, and it was men's night. And a guy says, ever since my wife started to take this course, I no longer need Viagra. And it's because a man is turned on by a turned on woman, but the mechanism for that is nitric oxide. And blood flow to the penis literally is as Dr. Oz says, the penis is the dipstick of men's health. And it is. It's like that organ has to function, and that's how you know that the rest of the cardiovascular system is functioning. So Cardio Miracle also is really helpful for men who have erection problems, but lung tissue is erectile tissue. And so the nitric oxide is really, really important. So on that happy note, okay, good. We're still good. I have another thing at 2:30. Yeah.
I have just a quick question. First of all, I also want to just say thank you, especially just helping women have a voice during menopause and all the work that you've done helping women and women's health. I mean, I've been a fan for a long time. Just quickly want to ask you your thoughts about the Paxlovid.
It's ridiculous. Paxlovid is just ridiculous. It, first of all, it doesn't cure a damn thing, and it gives you a rebound of symptoms that's worse than the ones you started with. The
Yeah.
stuff that, yeah, I mean, it's not ever worth taking. What works is ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, zinc, vitamin D. There's so many protocols that work. The Z-Stack works, Zev protocol, any of that stuff. Paxlovid, I mean, what did Pfizer get? 23 billion in the third quarter of 2021. And now they're getting the same from Paxlovid's prescriptions. Ivermectin should cost 3 cents a dose. It doesn't, because the demons have, racked it up. It's over the counter in Tennessee, by the way. Ivermectin. It's pretty easy to get these days. They're not tracking down the doctors who are recommending it, but it's over the counter in Tennessee, that I know. So if you find a formulary pharmacy in Tennessee, you can call and they'll send it to your house. Or you can get the horse paste. It works great. Just a pea size. You get that at Tractor Supply.
I had to ask you because I was prescribed it and I did get a rebound and I got sicker afterwards. And I was
Yeah.
like, why?
I
just
know,
like
I know.
that's all.
I know.
But I did share last week talking to Joni. I really feel like when I got COVID, I felt like it was an upgrade in a similar way that what you're saying with the menopause. I mean, I loved your voice about that. And I'm also intuitive, and my guides have really been saying this over the years. And I just really appreciate the message of that we're the beacon, that as long as we can stay aligned with the higher vibration frequency, that's how we heal and share healing with the planet. So just thanks for all your messages, and thanks for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. And it will be, it's the divine feminine that now needs to come and take its place beside the masculine. And I just got the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. A French person wrote it. It's absolutely wonderful. And it's there's a lot of stuff that they took out of the Bible. So you got to add it, the book of Enoch, the book of Thomas, Mary Magdalene's gospel. And this is the part that's been left out, the divine feminine, the intuitive, the stuff in your bones, the interior work. And when we bring that in, which you're all doing so beautifully, that's what's going to heal this planet. It's the part that's been left out for decades, centuries. And it's, coming roaring back. And I'll bet all of you can relate to, I was in Pilates once and my teacher goes, she looks at me because she's a movement intuitive. So oftentimes she'll get a glimpse of a past life or whatever. She goes, oh, okay, I just saw the two of us standing on the scaffold. We're both about to be hanged. Now, how many times have you been around other women and you go, oh yeah, I know you from the stake that we were last burned at.
Gosh.
Totally.
Like, it's terrible, but it's like, well, we're all back, and this time they're not going to get us.
And they're not going to silence us either.
No, not anymore. No. Well, that's good. Madeline, you're terrific. You just get that stuff right in here.
And I was going to ask you, Dr. Northrup, it's Monica Sheldon, what do you recommend for healing for those who have received the COVID vaccine and the booster?
Okay, what you want to do with that, Bob has told me he's seeing complete reversal with divine love. So that's important.
Okay.
The other thing that I want you all to know about is the EE system, eesystem.com. That's the scalar energy that Deborah Rose Michael, or Sandra Rose Michael has invented. When her mother was pregnant with her mother was working on nuclear fission to create the atomic bomb. And so when she was born, she worked with all the classified Tesla stuff. And she said, I realized that I was here to right the wrongs of my parents. And she's creating now the eesystem.com. These are 60 of them have gone up all over the world. And it's a scalar energy thing that sends light into your DNA. And that's really helpful. The Cardio Miracle is enormously helpful for this. And the main thing is, just don't get any more shots of any kind. And then the body eventually is going to detox that stuff. But the more shots you get, the more they want to put you in the internet of bodies. That's the goal, is to put you in the matrix and control everybody with a microchip through AI systems. That's what all those towers were that went up like mushrooms during COVID. It's to control you and put you in a social credit system. But it will not happen. It's the, Project Looking Glass is a military thing where they found that these demons cannot stop what's coming. They can't stop what's coming. What's coming is the rebirth of humanity and the golden age of humanity. And, Lee Carroll, who channels Cryon, he said, if we made it past 2012, we were not going to destroy ourselves, and we were going to evolve as a planet and as a race. And we're here for the greatest show on earth. So, you just need some beans and rice in the basement and we'll be good. I have to run now.
Thank you so much. We
Yes.
loved it. We loved it.
Thank you. I loved it too. You guys were terrific.
Christina.
Great. Thank you.
honor.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.